Hold on. Volume. Oh, got sound. Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. Thank you all for being here this morning. We're going to talk about transcribing for NES music. How many of you want to make your own covers, or how many of you already make your own covers? A bunch of you, good. Awesome. Well, today's focus is on specifically the NES and a little bit why it's difficult to transcribe, and we're going to go into ways that you can transcribe that are easy and that don't take hours, just like sitting there like, what is that note and what is that note? A little bit about my background. I wrote this when they were like, you know, why are you qualified to teach this panel? So I made this bio, but I'll just run through that a little bit real quick. I'm a composer, singer, songwriter, producer. I do a lot of stuff in music for a long time. I'm also known as 88-bit. I also teach songwriting and composition at a university called Baldwin Wallace in Cleveland, Ohio. Played a bunch of cons and MAGFest and PAX. Scored a bunch of short films. Working on a VR game at the moment. Released a bunch of original music. Member of the Recording Academy. So there's a quick background. So I started getting the NES music in like 2010, and back then on YouTube there weren't a lot of great piano covers of video game music. Just like mostly what I found, just people kind of plunking around the melody on the keyboard. And I was like, I think we could do some better arrangements, specifically on piano. So that's kind of what inspired me to try to do it on my own. I also wanted to shed some light on some lesser known soundtracks. One of my favorite is Marble Madness, and now and other soundtracks and other rare games like Arkista's Ring, and there's a lot of other great music. There's 684 games, or give or take, on the Nintendo, and all of them have soundtracks and written by real people, and there's a lot of great music buried in there. And to just help bring more respect to video game music as a whole, and it's stuff that I really do love. So you're going to learn today a little bit about how the NES sound chip works, some of its limitations, and ways that you can try transcribe NES music more accurately and easily. Take some notes, or just take some photos if something looks more interesting. Let's go this way. So just a real basic, what even is transcribing? It's simply just identifying what the notes are in a song, in a piece, and then recording them some way, either writing down notation or making an audio recording of yourself playing it or singing it, or even just memorizing it in your head. That counts as transcribing as well. Some challenges with the NES. Like I said earlier, identifying the notes by ear is very, can take ear training. It can be very difficult depending on your skill of identifying notes. That is a skill that anybody can learn, though. So if you do struggle with identifying notes by ear, it is a skill that you can learn. Like I don't have perfect pitch, and I've certainly developed my ability to transcribe music by ear over the time, and you can as well. NES music is really fast. That also makes it very difficult when you're trying to hear anything by ear. Speed makes it a lot more difficult. So if we can slow things down, that really does help. And then the voices in the NES are all kind of similar. We have this 8-bit square waves and triangle wave, which the two square waves almost sound identical, and they overlap. So you might hear a note, you're not sure which melody it's in. Those are some of the challenges by doing it by ear. Okay, a little bit about the sound chip in the NES. It has a total of 5 channels. That's all the composers had to work with. We had 2 square waves, a triangle wave, a noise channel, and a DPCM channel. The 5th channel really wasn't used much for music. It was mostly used for samples and and sound effects. Sometimes it is used, so like if you think of Super Mario 3, you hear there's like little percussion sounds in there sometimes, like bum 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 boom boom boom. That little boom boom is the DPCM sample channel, but it wasn't used for pitches too often. There are some cases where it is. Journey to Silius is a game that uses it. Fire and Ice is a game that uses it. But most of the time, We don't have to worry about that channel. The noise channel I also crossed off because you can't do pitches. It's just white noise. So those kinds of sounds. So the composers only really had 3 channels to work with to make pitch. The 2 square waves and the triangle wave. Okay. A great place to start if you want to transcribe a song is specifically YouTube. And the reason is it's free and there's no software needed. Almost every NES soundtrack you can find on YouTube. One of the main benefits, though, is you can slow down music using YouTube, and it doesn't change the pitch. It's an amazing technology that has come about in the past 20 years, which I'm still fascinated by, that we can do this, slow music down without lowering the pitch. And you don't need software to do it. You can just do it right on YouTube. Some drawbacks, it's free, but you have to sit through ads. You can't isolate the channels, so those 3 channels I talked about, they're all over. You can't isolate them. It would be great if we could isolate them and hear them individually. And this you have to, of course, transcribe by ear. But this is how a lot of people do it. So let's go and listen to the Mega Man 3 title screen or title theme on YouTube. Awesome theme, gets you pumped up, ready to kill some robots. So let's say you want to use this to transcribe music. We can go to settings, slow it down to 0.75 speed, half speed, which let's take a listen to that fast part coming up. Super helpful. Now I can hear and isolate, at least hear that melody like note by note, which is much more helpful. Little artifacts in there, but still easy way to start to identify those notes. Did anybody not know they could slow music down on YouTube? Everyone knew that. Okay, great. Some people still don't realize that that's a feature. Okay, let's go on to beyond that. There's another website called Cirrus Retro. So this gives us a little more. Who knows? Anyone know this site? Cirrus Retro. So write that down. This is a good one. I always forget the name. CIRRUS retro.com. It's a free website. You don't need any software. Almost every NES soundtrack is on there. This allows you to actually isolate the channels. Super cool. Some drawbacks, you can't slow down the music, can't move the playhead. So we can't start wherever I want, like I just did on YouTube. And you still have to transcribe by ear. And if you use a Safari browser, it will crash. So let's go over to Google, type in Mega Man 3. There it is on the NES. Let's hear the intro here. Got this big. Let's take out square one. Let's take out the noise. Let's hear just square two. great trick in Mega Man where they use the triangle wave as part of the snare drum. So one thing I should have pointed out that you can't do more than one note in each of these channels. So you can't do like 2 notes at a time. So when you get one note, they're monophonic channels. So the bass here is going do 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 do, and when there's that one little space, it's jumping up to a boo do 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 boo do 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 boo, and you add that with the snare, and we get a really cool snare sound. Let's put that together. They started doing that in Mega Man 2, like an Airman is the first song I can think of. I don't think Mega Man 1 does that, but Takashi Tateishi started doing that in Mega Man 2. So this is super useful if you just want to isolate the channels. Again, there's no playhead here, so this is volume. So you can't, I can only go back to the beginning. So still very useful. There isn't a way to slow down the music, but that's a great, even just to like, if you just want to experiment and see what's going on in individual channels, it's a fun website. Just did that. All right, this is the ultimate way to transcribe NES music. So this is how I do it, and this is how I recommend anyone do it. It just does involve a little software, but it's all free. This is what I encourage you to do. So Famitracker, who's familiar with Famitracker? A couple of you. It's an awesome little tool. But we're going to use Famitracker with another thing called NSF Import, which stands for the Nintendo Sound File Import. It's a plugin. So Famitracker is a musical tracker program which you can create your own NES and Famicom music. And then NSF Import is a plugin that was made to import Nintendo sound files into Famitracker. Benefits of this, it's free. You can slow down the music. You can isolate tracks. You can import any NSF file. And you can see the notes. So we don't have to worry about what gets, so it takes away the ear training part. You just look, it'll tell you what the notes are. Some drawbacks, there's software, but it's free. You also need the NSF file, but that's also free. And it only runs on Windows, but there are ways around that. I'm on a Mac here, so I'll show you how to get around that as well. So here's another good page to look to copy. There we go. Or take a photo of. So these are the places to get these three softwares, pieces of software. Famitracker.com, for Famitracker. rainwarrior.ca/projects/NES/NSFimport.html. You can also just Google NSF import and you should find that. Zophar's domain is my go-to for finding NSF files, as long as that stays up. And then if you're a Mac user, you can use Wine to run this, but it does get buggy. Or a Windows emulator like Parallels, which is not free, I don't think. All right, so let's take a look at Famitracker here. So this is what Famitracker looks like. And I've already loaded up, I think, Mega Man 3 in here. This is with NSF import. But to do this, you would normally go to File. I'll do it again. Not Open. You'll get this option, Import NSF. You click on that. Find your NSF file on your file. Open it. And then from there, you can pick all the different tracks that are in that file. So this one particularly has 57 tracks. That's not all music. A lot of it's sound effects. Let's open the first one. Don't mess with anything else. And then right here, these are all the different channels. So here's square 1, square 2, triangle, noise, DPCM, and each column is the actual notes. So here we have a C#4, then an A, then an F#3. And this purple purple column is the volume of each note. It's in hexadecimal. So if I scroll down a little bit, you can see it's slowly getting quieter. 4, 3, and then another one, 7. The notes slowly getting quieter. But all you really need is that first column there. The other columns affect the tone a bit, so don't have to worry about that. So let's just play this and hear what it sounds like. speed. I'm going to increase the speed to slow it down. A little slower. Pause it. I could just, and there's all the notes. C sharp, B, C sharp, looking at the left column here, B, C sharp, B, C sharp, B, C sharp, B, D for A, the new notes. So this takes all the guesswork out of learning transcribing music. Let's keep going. Sounds weird. Anybody know what's going on here? Yeah, what's going on?
They're using one of the square waves as like a quieter volume to the end with a slight delay to emulate like an echo reverb effect.
Yeah, exactly. It's so cool. They didn't have any effects back then, so to make like a reverb or delay effect, they would just double one of the other channels parts, but a little bit later. So here we have F sharp, and then each line, like a 16th note is about 8 lines of code here, or of information. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's more like 10. So here's one 16th note. Here's another 16th note. And here it is, the same note, F sharp, and then here's F sharp again, but just later, not even exactly later, but a little bit later in the square channel. And if I keep going down, you'll see E, E, F sharp, and it gives it that delay effect at full speed. Super cool. Super cool effect. Let's go back to the beginning. So the melody, right, is right. Who like ba dum da da da, right? Is that what you all hear at the melody? Does anybody hear bum 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 bum? Did anybody hear that? No, no. Okay. You may have. I'm going to take out square 2 and just hear square 1. That's the actual square 1 part. That's the actual melody. Bum, dum, 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 dum. But let's listen to square 2. Why don't we hear that? When we hear both. Oops. Try it again. They're overlapping. They're in the same register. Square 2 is like a little bit quieter, but they're the exact same tone pretty much. I think the exact same. Yeah, it's a little quieter. We have D as the volume, and here we only have A for square 2. So it's a little quieter. This is the volume column. But our ears, I mean, I've never heard it that way. Nico.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can actually edit this to like a read only, you know, with open placement, or if you actually do this.
This version, I believe, takes out the editing, but I've never tried, so I don't actually know. I've never tried, but probably there's a way. Seems like there'd be a way. I don't know. So yeah, so that's something you wouldn't know unless you like really dig into the song, that the composer wrote a different melody than we're actually kind of hearing. Let's hear that again. Take away square 2 and just put in the triangle. So So if I were arranging this, I would lean into that and I would try and separate the voices out by an octave on piano or whatever way I'm doing it. And so that you can hear that melody. That's a little more melodic anyway. So I think that's super cool. Let's see if there's anything else in this one. Let's go to the fast part. Here we see the triangle wave going down a pitch. Let's back that up. There it is. Every note is written in. Did you ever do that on bass, Nico? Did you ever do that on bass?
Yeah, I play a first base and it's the exact same thing where it's not bending the pitch, it's actually playing it down dramatically, which is fascinating.
That's awesome. Let's open up. What did you say?
Oh, I've had to do stuff like that in the wind where I have to do a fall because I play clarinet and I have to like bend and then go down and they'll still like flip it and still bend. That's like ideally, I only have to spin the command scale because that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
Earlier you said that a 16 note or was like how many lines?
Eight lines.
Is that universal?
No.
Okay.
No. It's just kind of often I'll see a lot of them are 8/16 notes. There's around eight lines. What are we at here? But it's not like one line is one note. So that's a lot of lines for one note, at least in these imports. Any other questions so far? Before we go any further? Just open up a couple other tracks and look into some other NES tunes. How do I get back? Oh, no, I don't want to save it. Wrong thing. Let's listen to one of my favorites. There we go. A few that I have saved here. Let's listen to RC Pro-Am by David Wise. He was also very creative with how he managed the limitations of the NES. How many people know this game, RC Pro-Am? Only one. All right, it's a great game. I don't know if it's a great game, but it's a fun game, and it has a really great intro. It's a little you play as a racing car, a remote control car that you race. So here's the intro to RC Pro-Am. Let's get all the voices in there. Again, there's no DPCM. There we go. Notice how thick this sounds. So that's it. That's the intro to RC Pro-Am by David Wise. It sounds so thick. So if we let's look at one channel. Let's just look at the triangle wave and what it's doing. So it has no rests. It's just playing all the notes all the time. But this would be a lot to play on one bass. But a computer, no problem. Jump all over the place all you want. Let's take a look at the square 2. It's also no rest. Square 1. It's also jumping in the bass octave, so it's got both the melody and the bass. So like all these parts are kind of overlapping to create this really thick sound. So we're getting full like triads in here, which you don't get a lot of in NES music. There's something cool too in this little part that I didn't notice when I first was trying to transcribe this. There's like a little bass octave drop. Which you don't really hear on a 13-inch TV with one speaker. But when we open it up, we figure that out. Yeah. That one is super cool. Let's open one more. Well, I think I'm not sure. I'm gonna go to 9:15. I don't think we'll go too much longer. Let's go. No.
Rob, I had a question about how you play that on piano. Those jumps are really high. Are you just condensing a lot of the upper stuff in one hand and playing the bass in the left hand?
Funny you asked. I could show you. I am. You asked how am I playing that on piano? If I'm. Oh, wait a second. Played it really slow. Octaves in the left hand. Then jump up. There's an octave drop. I added an octave drop here. There it is. This is my old piano. It's very bright. But yeah, so it's challenging to try and play everything like that on piano, but doable and it's super it's super fun. Let's take a look at one more. Am I in the wrong thing? Let's go here. Let's take a look at Marble Madness. Where is it? Is that in here? Oh, no, it's over here. I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay, this is a wild song. Anyone know this soundtrack at all? Garrett? All right, I have a couple. All right. The soundtrack is so wild. So this is originally an arcade game, and it had written by Brad Fuller and Hal Cannon, and they had more to work with. They didn't have as many limitations as the NES. Soundtrack's wild in arcade. I encourage you to check it out. But then David Wise was working for Rare and had to take that soundtrack and put it on the NES. So he changed some stuff, but he did an amazing job of like recreating it for just the NES limitations. So this is one of the most wildest video game songs I've ever heard. This is Intermediate Race. I'm gonna play this whole thing. Here we go. So the channels mostly loop, except the noise channel, which is actually a different length than everything else. It's much shorter. I assume he did this for space reasons. But the noise channel is like 3/4 shorter. It's not an exact number. So it loops at different spots, but you don't get to actually play this level long enough where it would actually loop in weird spots. But in here we can, and we find out that the noise channel's going to come back in at a weird spot here. It's not matching the music there. But then it's going to drop out again. Again, I think he did that for space. But here, go back to the beginning. Hold on. So here it is in the beginning. There's the noise channel right off the bat. Start it along. So it lines up with this as it should. And it drops out. Let's skip ahead. Starts to loop right here. That's kind of unusual. Usually all the channels are the same length. But not this case. Let's listen to one other part, that really, really weird part. Uh-oh. Everybody know what's going on there? You in the back.
Yes, you decided the game was not difficult enough as it. That's going to make music distracting.
Yes, very distracting. It's very jarring. Like I said, I've never heard anything quite like this. Why does it sound so jarring? Anyone else guess? Yeah. It's very much not in tune. It is correct. It is microtonal. It is in between an E flat minor tonal center and an E minor. So it's E half flat, these sections. So if we look at the notes, we can't actually see that exactly. So it starts, slow it down a little bit. It starts like on a D, and then it gets pitch shifted down, kind of to a C sharp. But it can't, this program can't say between notes, but you hear that dip. And it settles on a note that is in between pitches. Super cool. I don't know if this is the only game I know that does microtonal stuff quite like that. I'm sure there's others out there, but this is the only one I can think of. I can show you here too. I tried to emulate that on the piano a while back by playing two notes at once and then letting go of one of the other notes. This is also pre-beard. I'll play the whole thing. It's 1 minute. That's it. That's basically my panel on transcribing. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. I'll be around. I'm gonna get breakfast, but does anyone have any other questions before we go? Nico.
Yeah, I noticed in the program, it had like 900 BPM as like the tempo mark. Does that mean like maybe the whole note's like the shortest value you can put on there?
On this program?
Yeah, if you change the speed to normal, it's at 900 BPM, which I think is interesting.
Oh.
Like they just programmed it that way because that's the shortest that they can program for like a whole note or something.
That's probably what it is. It's probably 900 BPM per line.
Would you say it'd be accurate to transcribe it exactly that way? Try to read.
If you want to go that, yeah, you're right. You would be. If you want to go that specific, man, that'd be great. 900 BPM, quarter note equals 900. Yeah. If you try to mess with tempo, it just messes it up. So. I don't ever mess with tempo. I'm messing up. Sometimes it messes up for me. Right now it's working fine. But speed is usually what I just recommend you edit or moving around. Who else had a question?
In your making music, like what notation software do you use, and are any of these are these programs compatible with that? Or do you still have to?
I still manually put all the notes in. I use Sibelius 6 because once they got bought out, then Sibelius got worse. Unfortunately, I can't use Sibelius 6 on a newer computer. So right now I kind of use Sibelius 6, and then MuseScore is a great notation software. Yeah, for free notation, it's great. I don't love it as a publishing site. Like, anybody can publish music, and so you get very poorly engraved and poorly written music that you can find on MuseScore. There is some good stuff, but as a notation software, it's fantastic. So MuseScore is great. I've never liked Finale, but it's also fine. Dorico is a newer one, which I've seen people using, and I might look into more. But yeah, there isn't a way I'm sure there is a way to see, this isn't MIDI, but there's probably a way to convert this to MIDI, and then you can dump it into a notation software, and it would probably spit out the notes.
I know you can convert MIDI, but it ends up being really ugly MIDI, so you're probably better off just putting it in my hand.
Yeah, because it'll do every one of these inputs, like that pitch slide will be every note at 516, whatever, 556 notes or something. Did you have a question?
I just wanted to say, just looking at this, as a viewer, where when you scroll down line by line, and then you have on the top left the segments for each song that it just passes through, and then the shifting 16 note and stuff, it just reminds me of Mario Paint.
Yeah.
Like a more technical Mario Paint.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, similar idea. And putting note by note. Kind of, I guess Mario Paint is kind of like a tracker program. Any other questions? All right. I'll be around. Feel free to ask me about stuff. But thanks so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your MAGWest.